Welcome to the Always Be Quitting podcast. My guest today is Kait. She came to see me several months ago, and I think she has a unique story that most people don't expect. I'm not going to steal her thunder, but I will say this. If you stick around until the end, I think you'll find that what she has to share is really valuable and super interesting. So let's dive in. Kait, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm super excited about this. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about how you got to me?
Sure. Just a long road of trading one addiction for another,
Mm-hmm.
just for most of my life, and getting sober from a lot of those addictions. And then, kind of, one of the last frontiers of my recovery has been quitting smoking, quitting
Right.
nicotine.
So tell me what happened the day that you decided to come to see me?
Okay, so it wasn't really a decision. It just sort of happened as a series of events. So really what happened was, I think it was a Friday. I was having some pain in my side and I went to see a doctor, and I was just talking to the doctor, and he was like, "Oh, do you smoke? Do you drink?" Like, all the usual questions. And I'm like, "Yes, I smoke cigarettes." And he was like, "Would you be willing to see somebody about this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's someone here who his whole passion is this thing."
Right.
And I was just like, "You know what? Fuck it. Sure. I am. I am in this moment." And so he took me over to see you, and you weren't there. So then I left my email, and then I was like, damn, this sucks, because I know for me that the willingness to like change from addiction is like so fleeting. And so it was like, oh, am I going to respond to his email when he reaches out to me? And then I did, right? And
Mm-hmm.
because at that point, I think I was just in this place of getting ready to be ready, if that
Okay.
makes sense. And just still within this window of openness and willingness to like do something different.
So had you ever considered getting professional help before this?
For quitting nicotine and smoking, not really,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. It was something that I had tried
Right.
before and was fairly unsuccessful at
Uh-huh.
that, and went from smoking to vaping to then smoking and vaping,
Right.
and then I just couldn't stop either. And then actually I quit vaping almost 2 years ago now, but
Okay.
I was still smoking. And then it was just like I kept saying to myself, so I'm a graduate student, right? and
Right.
and so that I would quit smoking once I'm done with my PhD, because who the hell can stop smoking while
Yeah.
they're doing their PhD, right? And it was just like, there's no good time. There's no good time. So what the hell? Why not quit smoking at the end of my PhD? Why not finish my PhD a non-smoker? And so that's what I'm doing.
Cool. Excellent.
Yeah.
So what did you think it was going to be like when you came to see me? What did you think I was going to be like?
I really didn't have too many expectations.
Mm-hmm.
I had an idea of, that we would just have a conversation about where I'm at, which we did,
Right.
right? And that you would be like kind of my guy, my hookup for the nicotine replacement stuff.
Okay.
That was really the main thing. Like, one of the ways that my brain was, trying to keep me smoking, was telling me that, like, oh, well, if you quit and you need to use nicotine replacement, then you have to pay for all that stuff, and it's expensive, and da 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 da, all that. So I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
well, maybe I can get it at a discount.
So you said something interesting there,
Hmm.
is that if you quit, you would have to pay for nicotine, but you were paying for
Already.
nicotine already. And
Yeah.
one thing that, in fact, I have guests on other shows that I
Mm.
talk about the same thing, and I talk about it in several videos on my channel,
Mm.
is that the addicted brain works this funny deception about money. And buying nicotine from a tobacco company is sort of okay or expected. But when it comes to, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I'm going to buy some nicotine to help me quit, it's no, that's
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the rigid thinking of addiction, right? Like
Right,
it's very like it's hard to come out of that way of thinking until I was ready, at least for me,
right.
and because it is ridiculous, right? And then one of the other things you had offered me was that I was already doing nicotine replacement, right? Every
Hmm.
time that I smoked a cigarette, and I was like, whoa, I
Yeah.
am doing nicotine replacement already, right? So
I have
yeah,
literally said that for 20 years. Every
I
time I
bet.
talk to someone, every time I do a presentation or
Yeah.
a lecture or a workshop, I think that's a fundamental thing that people have to start accepting in order to make that mind change that has to
Mm-hmm.
happen. So let's talk about your teenage years. I think that they were probably very
Mm-hmm.
different than a lot of people's teenage years,
Hmm.
based on what you had said.
Sure. I mean, I was a pretty angry teenager. Well, not outwardly angry.
Okay.
I think it was more internally angry. And had like was dealing with, childhood abandonment trauma that just transformed into me disliking myself,
Hmm.
and then just constantly always seeking external validation. And most of the time the way that I dealt with that was like by performing really well in school, right?
Uh-huh.
It was a structure and a system that like I figured out and I had hacked and I'd been good at it and I was rewarded for it. Like people were telling me that I'm just celebrating me because I get good grades and
Right.
all of that stuff. And it just gave me permission to feel worthy of
Hmm.
just like being alive and being myself.
Right.
And I think that, you know, that whole thing right there, that piece of like needing something external to be okay is like for me what set the stage for addiction, I guess, to come into play in my life.
Right. So, yeah, at what point did you go from seeking good grades to
Mm-hmm.
seeking substances?
So my parents both met in recovery,
Oh,
actually.
wow.
So I'm a product of recovery, and I
Hmm.
grew up surrounded by my parents' like support group in recovery and like their kids and stuff. So it wasn't until I was 14, which is still young, that I smoked weed for the first time.
Hmm.
And it was this moment of like, holy shit, like where has this been my whole life, and
Right.
just like thinking about all of the warnings that I had been given by my parents, right? Because I have like two
Clearly, yeah.
parents that have struggled with addiction, and
Hmm.
so just like genetically being predisposed to that, and it was just like, but I just lived around recovery and like, was very privileged to have that experience,
Right.
but I just didn't know what addiction looked like, or that I had really was already starting to experience
Right.
some of the symptoms of it.
Hmm.
But yeah, the first time that I smoked weed, I was like, yeah, this is the shit. This is what I've been looking for to like get out of my head, and like the voice that had become mine telling me that like there's all of these things that are wrong with me and that are my fault and that I need all of this external
Hmm.
validation in order to be okay.
Right.
Like all of that like dissipated, right? And I was able to just be stoned, I guess, really,
Right.
and enjoy that sense of relief.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, at some point, clearly, this spiraled, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
out of control. Or what
Sure.
words would you use?
Yeah, yeah, the first time that it happened, right? It was definitely this euphoric, like this thing that I wanted to form this relationship with and
Right.
do all the time, but I was 14 and I wasn't really in a place where I could.
Hmm.
And so it wasn't until I went away to college that it really like started to progress.
Right.
And And I also struggled with a really intense panic disorder since I was a teenager
Okay.
too.
Right.
And that like attempted to get treated, but like still really like was in a very severe place with it. And so kind of when I went to college, like I had this dual like addiction and mental illness of the panic disorder progressing at the same time.
Right.
And
Okay.
so yeah, they both just like swirled in this dance and like took me down really hard, really fast.
Right. So, hey, friends, I want to pause this podcast for a few seconds to tell you that Always Be Quitting is launching a new community for quitting smoking and vaping. This is something you're going to want to be a part of. It's going to be unique. It's going to be structured around interesting challenges that are self paced. I'm designing them to be skill building. They will build the skills you need to ultimately quit smoking or vaping for good. I'm taking my 25 years of experience working with private clients and bringing that to this community. I'll be running the community. I will regularly be going live for member Q&As. We'll have a members only forum where you can post questions and where you can get help. The best thing is that we'll be opening the community for our first cohort now. And if you sign up now, you'll get a significant discount. We're thrilled about this and can't wait to work with you. You can go to our website at alwaysbequitting.com, which I'll link in the show notes, and register. Now we'll get you back to the podcast. Right. So you've been in recovery for how long now?
In November, it'll be 9 years.
Yeah, I remember when you told me that. I said that is almost 1/3 of your life.
Yeah.
That is your whole adult life.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that is amazing. That is super cool.
Yeah.
Things could have turned out very differently.
They could have.
Yes.
It didn't have to be this good.
How did you get into this chair? I guess so. Your whole life could have went on a totally different path.
Yeah.
And you stopped it. So what changed that?
Yeah, so I mean, so I don't the way that I perceive it is not that like I stopped it, right? Like I
Right.
don't think that I played too much of a role in the orchestrating of my own life and the path that it's taking.
Right.
Of course, like I have to put in the efforts and like listen to my body and my emotions and the cues and the things that are happening within me in order to figure out what I'm gonna do next and see how that goes. But in terms of the direction of my life, that's not up to me. I'm just following the breadcrumbs, and it's worked thus far. And the way that that applies to my like getting into recovery is like it wasn't a choice, right? It was I am completely and totally spiritually, emotionally, and physically bankrupt, right? I had gotten to a place where going from like I wasn't partying and having fun anymore like I
Right.
was in the earlier days, right? It was like I'm alone in my room getting messed up and like wanting to stop but like not being able to stop. And also having panic attacks all the time and eating disorder up in there too, and it was just like a lot of things that were just completely draining the life out of me, like quite literally. And so so it wasn't a choice to come into recovery. It was a submission, really, because there was no other way out. And I'm again privileged enough to have the parents that I do. Right, my parents are both in recovery, and they're also mental health professionals. So my upbringing was very specific, but I had, the privilege of them knowing how to navigate the system to get me into a treatment facility that addressed all of those things, and where I could really get the help that I needed to start finding a new way to live.
Wow. That's super interesting. I think that when people think about how the story or the progression of how someone becomes addicted and makes it into recovery, there's all these, of course, stereotypes, just like there is about a lot of things in life.
Yeah.
And that's quite a unique story. I
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I'm glad that I didn't have that barrier of like, does recovery exist? Is it for me? Will it work?
Right.
Right? Like I literally grew up around it, right? And I hadn't seen any of those people, drinking or using, but I had seen just what recovery looks
Right.
like, right? And just that I knew that there was something available to me if I needed it, which is
Right.
really the biggest thing.
Yeah, I think that what you said was really interesting because the way that that progresses in the family,
Mm-hmm.
it's it's unique, and I like that you use that word privilege because
Mm-hmm.
it was a I think it was a privilege now
Mm-hmm.
that the way that you explain it, because when a lot of families are dealing with that, the family has to come to terms with,
Yeah.
look what's going on, the family
Yeah.
has to get educated, the family has to understand all these things, and you had two parents that already
Right.
they knew, sounds like they were experts in it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely like it's hard sometimes to hear about, what that was like for them, to be witnessing me and my own addiction and, them understanding to their core that they're powerless over me, right?
Right.
Like there's nothing that they could have done to get me into recovery. Like I had to have my own
Right.
experience with it, and it's just that when I was ready, like they were there, and
Right.
I totally and completely relied on them to get me that help that I needed.
So they must have had some feelings of letdown toward you, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
just I'm asking you,
Sure.
like as a parent I would think, oh my gosh, I set the best example for my kids, I
Mm-hmm.
did everything right, I warned
Yeah.
them about this. And
Yeah.
so did you guys ever talk about that?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, well, I mean, I'd even recall just like the the process of me being further into my addiction and just changing as a person
Right.
and becoming more self-centered and how that impacted my family, right? Because I
Right.
was constantly and consistently choosing myself and my own wants and needs over showing up as a daughter, as a sister, and even as a friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like and I remembered times where like my parents were like, what is happening, like
Right.
what is happening to you right now, like this is not who you are. And me being like having this internal battle of like, yeah, like what is happening, I don't understand what's happening, but I also like couldn't stop this like selfish fueled like path that I was
Right.
going down, where
Mm-hmm.
it was like I have to choose me and my own wants and desires. Like that's just what addiction does.
So you were in this interesting situation, you're sober from other substances but
Mm-hmm.
still smoking.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's common for people in recovery?
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah. I mean, so right before I got sober, I mean, I was in a place where, as my dad describes it, like I was about to have a psychotic break. So I
Okay.
wasn't really like here all that much. And I wasn't like, I didn't pack my own bags to go to treatment, right? It was just my parents did everything for me, and I just got on the plane and went.
Right.
And, so I wasn't like, oh, I gotta get a carton of cigarettes before I go. And so like when I was just totally in like that complete like submission
Mm-hmm.
place of just like I'm just gonna go through the motions and like get there, and like we'll figure it out later. It just didn't matter at the time. And then I got to treatment and I was like, I'll just quit smoking too. And then
Okay.
like the next day, I was like, somebody give me a fucking cigarette right now. Like I was like, nope, not happening,
Right.
right? And there are some suggestions in certain recovery communities of like, to not quit smoking right away,
Right.
right? Like that shouldn't be your focus, right? Your
Right.
focus should be on getting and staying sober and like getting some time
Mm-hmm.
and some days underneath
Right.
you so that you can eventually get to that place, right? So yeah, there's a lot of people that smoke cigarettes or vape,
Right.
and it is can be part of the culture too, because it's like the last thing that I have to hold on to, that and caffeine
Right.
are like
Yeah.
sober legal, I
Right.
guess, for
Yeah.
most people. It seems like, yeah.
I mean, I do want to go on a record and saying there's a very huge difference between caffeine and nicotine, smoking and
Oh
vaping.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I have a couple of videos on my channel about using caffeine in a helpful manner when you're trying to quit,
sure.
and talking about some of the, not to be overly dramatic about it, but some of the positive things about using caffeine
Yeah,
as a general alertness thing that does not produce the same side effects and
yeah,
lifelong effects as using nicotine or smoking or vaping or other
yeah.
things. So in your experience, that stereotype that we just talked about, is that reality? So that when people are at a recovery meeting, when they get a break, they're all outside smoking and vaping, waiting for the recovery meeting to start again?
A lot of people do. Yeah,
Right.
there's definitely the inside and the outside crowd.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm now part of the inside crowd. It's
Wow.
weird. Yeah, I spend a lot more time inside than I normally do.
Interesting. I never knew about the inside crowd and the outside crowd.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, in your experience, what is the difference between quitting smoking or vaping
hmm
and quitting other drugs?
The difference for me
Mm-hmm.
personally, I feel like it's not that different.
Okay.
And I feel like we talked about this a few
Mm-hmm.
times where the first time that I came to see you and I'm sitting in the chair and we're talking and I kind of had this like experiential moment of like, holy shit, I've been in this place before
Right.
where like I couldn't stop on my own and
Mm-hmm.
I needed some type of intervention and I needed help
Right.
from somebody else, right? Or I needed help in some form.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it was just like and also it was just crazy because yeah, I'm in my ninth year of sobriety and so I hadn't felt that experience or had that experience of powerlessness in that way
Right.
and actually recognizing it and admitting it and like it being in my body of like, oh, this is happening again and I haven't felt like this in a long
Uh-huh.
time. um and I think that was pivotal, right?
Right.
Because without that recognition, it would be really difficult to move forward.
Yeah.
For you know nicotine or other substances.
Right. The super cool thing is every time you say it's 9 years, I get a smile on my face.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That is awesome. That must
Yeah.
feel wonderful.
It's so cool. Yeah.
So, did your experience quitting other drugs help you in quitting this drug?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, getting and staying sober for as long as I have, and having like a spiritual routine, a spiritual connection with others, with something
Mm-hmm.
greater than myself, with community. I mean, it gave me the platform to quit smoking.
Right. When you say spiritual connection, what is that to you? Because for a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone needs their own operating definition of
Yeah.
spirituality, and there's some things that we can pigeonhole or stereotype people to say this is what the spirituality is for certain people. But what is that for you?
I guess for me, it's recognizing that there's more than just myself,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
While also recognizing that everything that I experience is for me, which is there. I feel like spirituality, there's a lot of paradoxes.
Right.
Um, and that's one of them. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think maybe at a more basic level, spirituality is just practicing principles
Right.
on a daily
Mm-hmm.
basis, right? And being open to changing my perspective. Or
Right.
I mean, and again, it's not me changing my perspective, it's me having my perspective changed because I decided to try something different.
Right.
Right. And that's kind of at the basis of it, I think.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit further as far as, I think you did a great job talking about spirituality,
Mm-hmm.
as far as what maybe tool set you used or you borrowed from
Mm-hmm.
recovering from other substances and applied them to this?
Yeah. I mean, being in recovery and continuing to have this openness and, shedding all of these layers to like get down to what my truth is on a changing basis, has led me to be in really deep and intimate relationships with people,
Right.
that are also doing the same thing, right? And so I have a friend also in recovery that, she's still smokes, right? And
Okay.
so we would hang out and we get together and we'd just be cutting it up and talking about, yeah, all of the things that we're experiencing in our
Hmm.
lives, all of the ways that we're trying to see things differently, do things differently, the things that we're learning from that, right? And having parallel experiences but separately, and realizing, so there was one day where, my me quitting inspired her
Oh,
to
wow.
try.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so she tried. I think she made it like 3 days,
Oh,
and
okay.
she was like, Kate, I don't smoke for me, I smoke for other people, right? To
Ah.
like deal with other people, right?
Hmm.
And it was this realization of like, oh yeah, I'm using smoking as an emotional band-aid, just
Okay.
like I was using other drugs,
Right.
right? And it was, and I guess that's why when you quit smoking, you become like a baby again emotionally, right? Like I have not experienced as intense emotions that I
Uh-huh.
did when I quit, and besides when I was 14 years old and when I first got sober,
Okay.
right? Like it was like I was so sensitive to
Right.
everything, and all of the emotions I was feeling were so, it felt like they were going so deep, right? And
Hmm.
I felt really dramatic, and I think I was, but it was just like I have no space for anybody except myself. Do not ask me to do anything for you or think of you or consider you. I'm done doing that.
Uh-huh.
And it also, like, me quitting smoking came at a point in my personal journey and my spiritual journey where like I'm trying, or I'm stopping people pleasing,
Right.
right? I'm taking up the space that I've been allotted by the
Hmm.
universe, and I'm embracing myself more, and I'm getting to know myself more, and I'm just being me,
Right.
and saying things that I think or saying things that I was perceiving would bring conflict that I wouldn't say before because
Right.
I didn't want
Hmm.
to bring conflict, right?
Yeah.
And kind of stopping smoking, it helped push me forward in that because I was so emotionally intense that I
Uh-huh.
was just like, yeah, I'm not going to do what you want me to do. Please don't ask me to do it, right? And it
The
helped
answer's
me.
no.
Yeah, yeah. And it was wild, but it helped, like, I don't know, there was something in me that shifted, right? Because I quitting smoking brought me into the present moment more.
Right.
I didn't have that like
Hmm.
release and sense of relief that it provided me. I had to sit with the emotions. I had to sit with the things that people in my life were saying or doing that I actually wasn't okay with, that beforehand I could just get relief by
Right.
smoking. And now it was like, oh, there's actually all of this other stuff. So it really, I had no idea that
Uh-huh.
all of that was going to happen, and it's really like this divine timing of like all of these things happening
Right.
that I was ready for that, right?
Yeah.
And quitting smoking put me in a place that just, yeah, pushed me
Right.
forward on that front.
I am going to circle back to the doctor who asked the right questions,
Mm, mm-hmm.
showed interest in you, and that's the way it's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And the problem with it is that should be happening in doctors and healthcare providers' offices everywhere. And
Mm-hmm.
granted, not everyone's going to get the response that you gave, and oh yes, I'm willing to give that a try. But we really need to elevate that so that the person gets in that seat. That's
Sure.
and because you keep talking about some really serendipitous things that
Mm-hmm.
happen along the way, but that was really the thing that connected us together
Sure.
and connected you really to quitting. Because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, would you have quit smoking if he didn't do that?
Probably not. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell. The alternate timeline me probably would have still continued to smoke. Because even after we first met, I was like, I don't want to stop. I'm not ready to stop. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
do want to stop, but I don't feel ready, right? And I
Yeah.
remember talking to you about this of being like, it doesn't feel right for me to say that, like, oh, okay, I'm done,
Right.
because I had that black and white thinking still of like, either I smoke or I don't
Right.
smoke, right? And then it just became, which you helped me a lot with, of just
Okay.
like, we'll just like try it out, right? Like, instead of having a cigarette later, like I'll have one of the lozenges
Mm-hmm.
or gum or whatever it was, and
Right.
just see what happens, right? Because I had never done that, so
Right.
it was just, again, yeah, choosing to embrace a new experience, and just like, yeah, I can go back to smoking anytime I want,
Right.
like there is no, oh, if I stop smoking, then I have to stop smoking forever, and I can't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Generally, when I'm working with someone, if they want to smoke or vape, early on, I tell them you should smoke or vape. I think you
Right.
should do it. I think you should feel what it feels like. But most important, I think you should do it, feel what it feels like after you do it.
Right.
Because that's really when the person starts to decide, yes, I'm going to get off the fence and I'm going to go forward with this. And I think that's what
Mm-hmm.
you did, because I remember some of our conversations. And when I'm working with a lot of people, they have that exact same dichotomy that you had.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I do when I'm working with a person is to figure out a way to help them get forward.
Mm-hmm.
Because taking action, particularly in any recovery or any behavior change, leads to positive dopamine. It leads to, even if they fail, they experience little bits of success, which are
Mm-hmm.
super important for that person putting everything together to go forward for the last time, or at least for
Mm-hmm.
a successful quitting attempt. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because there is no, like, at least for me, like, I can't, like, fight it, right?
Right.
Like, there's only so much that I can fight it before I'm just gonna collapse back into it, right? But
Right.
putting together the little pieces, like you're
Mm-hmm.
saying, like, at least was helping to show me, okay, it's possible,
Right.
right? Like, I can get a few days together at least,
Oh, and you
right?
did.
And
Yeah, you got,
yeah.
yes. And that's what I say. People seeing positive results in any behavior change, but
Mm-hmm.
particularly this one, particularly when they thought to themselves, I couldn't even go 24 hours. I can't even go 12 hours. This is not going to work
Right.
for me. When they start seeing I can do this, that confidence is
Mm-hmm.
crazy. And it's crazy empowering to the person that wants to change their life.
Yeah.
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 And you probably experienced that with when you were working on other areas of recovery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And I was also like talking to a lot of other people in recovery, because thank goodness, a lot of people in recovery have also quit
Uh
smoking.
huh. Well, that's
Um,
cool. That's good to hear.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And so I was sourcing all of my people
Uh
to
huh.
just be like, what was your experience with
Right.
this thing, right?
Yeah.
Which is also just another way of being open and willing to
Right.
trying something new, is just being like, hey, I can relate to you. How did you do this
Right.
thing? Which is super powerful.
Yeah, it's cool that you had an existing community
Yeah.
to go essentially mine information from.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I'm going to start doing is starting a community, a quitting community, because I think it
Mm,
is so important. People think I can do this by myself. Some people don't even want to tell anyone else they're quitting.
yeah.
They don't want to
Yeah,
get any
yeah, yeah.
help. But when you go get surrounded by people
Mm,
that's empowering. That's how you make progress. That
Oh
having that
yeah.
community support, which is cool because so many things that you're saying embodied that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's at least it's been, I mean, it was impossible for me to get sober without having a
Right.
community of people that like I could identify with, right? That's the identity piece is so huge, right? Cuz oftentimes like addicts, alcoholics, whatever you might be addicted to, like we also the really rigid thinking of like, well, you don't know what I'm
Right.
experiencing. So how could you give
Help
me
me.
advice, yeah, on like how to do this when you haven't experienced it
Right.
yourself, right? And so having a community of people where it's like, nah, bro, we, we've all been through it here,
Right.
right? Like, and not all of us are lying in this
Right.
room about that we're like having a good time, you
Right.
know? Yeah. So, I mean, maybe some people are, who
Right.
knows,
Yeah,
but.
but so I remember when we were talking and you
Mhm,
had mentioned the importance of exercise to you
mhm.
and the importance of exercise in this process. So, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, yeah. So I had started going to the gym regularly at like the beginning of this
Mm-hmm.
year. And smoking and going to the gym don't really go hand in hand, contrary to popular belief.
One of I'll interrupt you there. One of my offices was right outside of the gym at one
Mm,
point, and I used to see people, and it had an out-facing window, and I would see people come in smoking, put out their smoke, and then go to the
go to
gym.
the gym. Yeah, yeah. So the point that I was kind of at already with smoking, which I know this is like kind of abnormal to people that have been
Mm-hmm.
addicted to cigarettes for as long as I was, which is like 10 years. But I wasn't smoking immediately in the morning, right?
Right.
And really the reason for that was because it would make me feel tired, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to feel tired when I wake up in the morning. So it wasn't giving me that effect of like relief
Right.
that I would want from a cigarette. So why would I do it if I wasn't getting that, if that wasn't the
Right.
effect that it was producing? So I wouldn't smoke in the morning, and it wasn't until like at some point in the afternoon, usually I'd go into the lab, work, and then at some point, like when I would leave, then that would be my first cigarette of the
Right.
day. But then what started happening was, well, I would get out of the lab and then go to the gym, and it was
Mm-hmm.
like, well, I don't want to smoke on the way to the gym, so I'll just like wait till I get out of the gym.
Right.
So exercising helped prolong like how long it
Mm-hmm.
was in the day until I had my first
Right.
cigarette. So I think I was already on my way to quitting without even really knowing it. And
Right.
I had been wanting to not smoke for a long time. I didn't want to quit, but I didn't want to smoke.
That's
If
there's
that
a
made
distinction
There
there,
is a
and it's really
distinction.
important.
Yeah, it is. I'm glad you get it. And so it's just, yeah, it's really cool, and it goes back to how it's like, yeah, it's kind of not up to me, like I don't really have a hand in these things. I just follow the breadcrumbs, and it's like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, okay, I want to
Mm-hmm.
start going to the gym, right? Like I'm in a place, I'm 31 now, and I'm like, yeah, and I want to prolong the
Mm-hmm.
health of my life,
Right.
right? And I'm in a place, and I've been in a place in sobriety now where I want to live, I want to experience, I want to do it all, right?
Yeah.
And I get to do that, and it's like I actually want to do that for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so going to the gym being part of it, and then yeah, the next step was just like, okay, I'm effectively so close to
Right.
quitting without even knowing it. And so then it was like, oh yeah, go to the doctor, come see you, and like still not being in that place of like, yeah, I'm so done, I'm ready to be done,
Mm-hmm.
right? But like it happened. And we also kind of talked about this of like getting to like emotional spiritual bottom
Right.
with drugs,
Mm-hmm.
alcohol versus with cigarettes. It takes longer usually to get to
Okay. Right.
so-called bottom with cigarettes, because I can still maintain relationships with people, right? Like I can still live life generally in the
Right.
way that I want to live it and
Of course,
still
yes.
smoke
Right.
cigarettes. Whereas with substances, I couldn't do that, right?
Right.
And so getting to a place where I was like ready to quit kind of looked a little bit different. Although there
Mm-hmm.
were all the similarities,
Right.
it was still like I didn't have that same complete defeat readiness because
Right.
I'm,
Yeah. Yeah.
31 and still relatively healthy,
Mm-hmm.
right? So yeah,
I think that bottoming comes out for a lot of people when they smoke is when they get a real serious health problem.
right.
And the problem is they've accumulated so many years of smoking
Mm-hmm.
that, and to get to that bottom requires a cancer or emphysema or COPD or
Right.
macular degeneration or something like that,
Yeah.
that where they sort of think, okay, now I've got to stop. Meanwhile, there's all the other things that are piling on at the same time. It's generally not just one health thing. So
Right.
yeah, you did it. You did it early. And one of the things
Yeah.
that I stress, and one of the things I stress with always be quitting, is particularly you've got to get an always be quitting mindset, and you've got to keep going with it, come
Mm-hmm.
hell or high water, until you
Mm-hmm.
quit. Because if you don't, you just kick the can down the road
Mm-hmm.
until you're like, oh man, why
Yeah.
did I do this for 10, 15, 20, 30 years?
Right. And then at that point, I mean, I don't know exactly, but it's probably hard or impossible to reverse it at that
For a
point,
lot, yes. At
right?
some points,
Yeah.
I mean, early on, your body can, for the most part,
Yeah.
undo a lot of the damage. I don't think you ever get a get out of jail free card on
Sure.
that. But the more pack years, the more you smoke, quantity, frequency, all impacts toxic load, which all impacts your health status over the
Right.
years. So yeah,
Right. Yeah.
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 So to get back on that, when what importance did the exercise have for you? Like what did it catalyze?
I mean, it catalyzed the getting ready process
Right. Okay.
without knowing that I was getting ready,
Yeah. So
right?
you hacked yourself. You tricked yourself.
Yeah. And not even
Right.
intentionally, right? Like it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to start going to the gym and I'm going to quit smoking. It was
Right.
just like, I'm just going to start going to the gym
Right.
and like strengthen my muscles and my body and just try to
Mm-hmm.
just be and feel more healthy,
Right.
and be able to go hiking for longer periods of time or,
Right.
whatever it is, just to have that experience.
And one thing that I talk to people that aren't in the readiness stage, and maybe they don't even, they
Mm-hmm.
0% want to quit, is
Sure.
to start exercising. Because a lot of times
Hmm.
smokers and vapors will stop exercising. In fact, a lot of
Mm.
people, oh, I used to run cross country in high school. I used to be a dancer
Yeah.
in high school. And then all of a sudden they're really sedentary. And just getting them exercising again, getting moving again, that action potential, that dopamine release, that confidence,
Mm.
that positive
Right.
things that they build often will propel a quitting attempt. So,
Yeah, especially because it's like, yeah, my body feels better working out,
right.
right? And so it's like, okay, feel better working out, but then feel like let's just like undo all that with a
Right.
cigarette, which
Yeah.
like there were definitely days where I smoked on the way home from the gym,
Yeah.
like that. I totally did that.
Right.
But yeah, it lessened the number of cigarettes that I had,
Mm-hmm.
probably on average, probably just because I started later in the day.
Right. Has your day changed or the way that you think about cigarettes or?
Yeah, so I mean, at first it was like, oh, help, and
Uh-huh.
just like holding on. There are a few, white knuckling it
Right.
moments of just like, I really want to do this, but I'm not going to, right? And, there were a few like tests, I guess, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak, that were really, really pivotal to me staying stopped.
Mm-hmm.
The first of which was like I don't even if it was a week maybe after I'd
Mm-hmm.
stopped. That my friends it was a Friday and we were all out at the park, and then my friends were like, oh, can we come back to your house? And I was like, yeah. And then but in my head I knew
Mm-hmm.
they're going to smoke cigarettes
Right.
on my porch, which is a thing that I love to do.
Yeah.
And I can't do that.
Okay.
And then, but it's like, but it's going to be okay. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm not going to not live the way that I want to live just because of me
Right.
quitting. Right. And so that happened. And, you know, they knew I was quitting. And then it was like, all right, everybody's going out on the porch, and I was just like, oh, I can't even, I was like, I can't go out there because that's just too much for me, right? But then it was also, yeah, like having this experience of feeling like I was missing out on the connection because I'm staying inside, and basically everybody but two of my friends that stayed with me, but everybody else was outside and, you know, cutting it up and whatever. And I was inside just like, no. And just having this back and forth moment of like, do I just give in? Do I give in? Do I like, you know, I went and got some gum, and then I had, you know, my two friends that helped, you know, emotionally support me through all of that too. And it was like, okay, I'm not going to do it. And there were even some funny instances of like, you know, one of my friends being like, okay, I'm not going to smoke too. And he like shook on it and everything. And then he like went to the bathroom and then came out and he just walked outside and he like went, and we were like, no, out the window. No, don't do it. You know, it's like very silly, you know, so we can still like have fun in the moment. Thank goodness.
Yes.
Yeah, and then also, yeah, my friend that I usually smoke a lot with, like I think it was the next day I went over her house, and I was like, I was good. I wasn't fighting the urge anymore. And I was like, okay, it's like, yeah, the obsession that we get when we stop doing the thing that we're addicted to, of just like the rat race running over, like that had been lifted, and I was feeling some relief from that. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, like like I can like kind of coast now a little bit. And so you know, there are still times where I'm like, you know, a cigarette, that would be nice, you know, it would be nice. But I don't, I'm not like fighting the urge anymore, right? That was yeah, just a transient period.
Right. So, speaking of your friend in recovery that's still smoking, did you find it odd that you were talking to her about quitting smoking while she was actively smoking? Because because I don't think that if it was drinking, it would be the same way.
Sure.
Clearly, if you're talking in the recovery community, you're not going to be talking about not drinking and having someone talk to you about not drinking while they're actively drinking.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Right.
It wouldn't work very well anyway.
Right. Yeah. I think that, you know, I mean, she's been in recovery for decades, right? And has been, yeah, in the spiritual process and embodiment of uncovering who she is and how she wants to live, that it's like, yeah, she's very clear on like what is going on for her with smoking, right?
Okay.
Like she's not living in the delusion. And you know, like I had said earlier, she had stopped for a little bit, right? And because of, you know, being influenced by me stopping, right? Of just like, well, let me just try it out, right? And so we also got to have that experience together of like realizing how much we freaking rely on cigarettes to regulate our emotions, right? And it yeah, you would think that like someone who's still smoking maybe might not be able to provide insights to someone who's quitting, but she really was able to, right? Just because by the nature of who she is and all of the work that she's done on herself, you know. And you know, helping me embrace like, yeah, I'm a non-smoker now, you know, like she was the one who was telling me that in the very early days where I didn't feel like I could claim that yet. And then it was like, no, I am going to put that out there. I am a non-smoker.
So do you think she'll ever quit smoking?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
What do you think it'll take for her to quit?
Oh, yeah, that's not up to me. I
Hmm.
don't know. Yeah, everybody has something different, right? And,
Right.
like with my experience of just all of the things happening to line up,
Right.
and I think that one of the things is for me, and I know that for her, is that she has a desire to stop smoking at some
Hmm.
point. Maybe it's not right now, but just like in general, like wants the health benefits of not
Right.
smoking
Yeah. Yeah.
anymore.
Well, you got to have that. If you don't have that, you're not
Right.
going anywhere. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
hopefully she'll get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too.
So, is there anything specific that I did that helped you?
I mean, I think you're a like non-assuming approach,
Hmm.
and meeting me where I was at was really helpful,
Right.
right? Like, because I think there's part of me, that the piece of me that maybe felt like shameful about it, or like the part that felt like it had to be all or
Hmm.
nothing, right? Like you helped break that for me, I think, and just our conversations
Hmm.
about of like, we'll just try it out and see what happens, right?
Right.
it's yeah, it's simple, not easy, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think you just coming in and or me coming into you and you being curious
Hmm.
and leading with the curiosity and just getting to understand where I'm at so that you could help me.
It's weird. The
Yeah.
guest that I asked a similar question to the guest that was on before you, and she said three of the almost exact same words that you
Mm,
said. So,
cool.
yes, thank you. That's it's.
Yeah.
You've been in other types of recovery. What do you think is the importance of the accountability piece? Because in a lot of
Mm,
cases, I think what people tell me they need, in addition to a lot of other things, in order to
mm.
quit an addiction, is having some accountability person.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think as community oriented animals that we are, right?
Uh
Like
huh.
that's kind of ingrained in
Right.
in in how we navigate the world. And so having accountability, yeah, I think that was probably the one of the pieces that I was missing and that I wasn't necessarily going to seek out on my own, but
Okay.
again, like the dominoes of like, yeah, going to the doctor and him bringing me to you and all of that, and then me actually coming in to
Uh huh.
see you, right? Like help put that in place of just like, okay, there's someone that knows a lot about this and is gonna meet me where I'm at, and I'm gonna come in same time next week, right? and
Right.
and we're gonna talk about just how it went trying it out,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um and yeah, having the support and the accountability, right? It's like kind of two sides of the same coin.
That brings me to one of the big. It's a sort of pet peeve that I have
Hmm.
about it is that people say I don't need help. I don't need to seek out a professional. I don't need to seek out a community. But when they do it, they're like, this is just what I needed.
Yeah.
But convincing them that
Hmm.
this is what you need, this would be helpful, is it's a
Hmm.
conundrum.
Yeah.
It
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things of like letting go of an old idea of
right,
resentment, letting go of whatever it is. Like it's this very elusive thing that
right,
we can't really describe how it happens, right?
uh huh,
It just happens.
right,
It's unfortunate that, or I mean, I don't know if it's unfortunate that we can't force it, right? Because at least from my perspective of like everything unfolds in the timing and the ways that it should,
right.
right? And just because I think that it should be different doesn't mean that it should be different,
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
of course, we want to help people and all that. And at least for me, the thing that I can just do is just be there when the people are ready,
Right.
you know, and have the information and the resources out there like you're doing, just like trying to get the word out of like, hey, there is this help that
Right.
exists. Yeah.
A lot of people are fence sitters. I call them. They're sitting on the fence of getting help and getting a professional or getting into some sort of program, and just sitting on the fence for the next decade. How do you get them off that fence?
You gotta push them over.
Yeah, what is the push that gets them to
Yeah.
say, I think that I'm going to do that this time?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That I feel like that's like it's kind of an impossible question to answer. Like, because it's probably different for a lot of people, because I think again, yeah, it's just like the combination of having some sort of desire to stop,
Right,
right? In addition to just the universe acting in my life to unfold the events to get
right.
me to stop, right? Because
Uh-huh.
if I believe that this is something that I don't have control over, then I don't have control over what side of the fence, or whether I'm
Right,
on or off the fence, you know,
right.
that sort of thing is,
Yeah, and that
yeah,
underlying addiction is what they're fighting. And that underlying
right,
addiction, like you described so many times, is what keeps them on the fence. It keeps them on
yeah,
the addiction versus the non-addiction. The brain, the biochemistry,
right.
all those things underneath are just keeping them stuck.
Yes,
Yeah.
the stubbornness and the like I know better, the arrogance
Right.
and the pride and ego. And
Yeah.
because I know for me, like a piece of it too was like I don't want to quit and like say I'm quitting and then
Yeah,
relapse,
that's a big one for
right?
people.
The
Yeah.
and that's all ego,
Right.
right? And it's so silly, but
Uh-huh.
like it just it plays a role,
Right.
right?
Yeah. It plays a big role.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, Kate, when I asked
Mhm.
you to come on the show, it was because I really enjoyed our private
Mhm.
conversations. And I told you a bunch of times that I think you have a really unique perspective. And
Mhm.
hopefully, by this time in the podcast, other people are saying, yes, that's not what I expected to hear
Mhm.
from her, which is what I said in the beginning, I
Yeah.
think, hopefully. So, I did also think that your story could inspire other people. So,
Mhm.
what are your feelings about being a role model for this?
Yeah, it feels like it's a hard question, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like. Um because I don't feel like I have this inflated sense of like self importance, and that like people need to hear what I've
Right.
experienced and what I have to say. And while at the same time, I'd be so happy to try and give that gift away to somebody who was ready and wanted it. Right. And
Right.
so it's this kind of, yeah, again, like the spiritual paradox of contrasting, like I am proud of who I am and what I have to offer and all that stuff, but I'm
Mm.
not gonna go shout it from the rooftops. Maybe
Uh-huh.
at
Yeah.
one point I would, right,
Uh-huh.
in my very early sobriety, because it was
Right.
this whole like,
Yeah.
holy shit, I had no idea, right? I had no idea that I could live a different way,
Uh-huh.
and that it would provide me with a life where I feel so it's so meaningful and purposeful, and
Right.
I feel good about who I am after most of my life feeling really terrible about who I am.
Uh-huh.
And just that was all possible. And so I was, you know, trying to shout it from the rooftops probably at one point, but I
Mm-hmm.
think as I've like matured in my sobriety, and yeah, coming into this understanding of you know, as like my truth of everything is unfolding as it should, and there's nothing that I can force to
Right.
happen, right? And so I just want to be present and available for all of the moments as they unfold,
Mm-hmm.
and and hopefully, and they have thus far include, I guess playing sort of a role model figure maybe for some people, but to me, it's just the gift of sharing, right? That like I get to share what it's like on this side of the fence with other people that are on it or are on the other side or are on the same side
Right.
as me, right? That we get to experience these things in our own individual selves and come together and have a collective experience.
Right.
And I think that's really all I'm trying to do, And of course, I would love to help anybody that thinks I could be helpful to them, and I definitely
Right.
try to make myself available for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So what do you think the title of this podcast should be?
Of like this episode
Yeah.
specifically?
Yeah. I was thinking something along the lines of, and I was curious to hear your point. Something along the lines, maybe we can workshop the final addiction, quitting smoking when you're in recovery.
That's great.
You like that?
Sounds cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it sort of is, because I've thought about it as that's when I was writing all your questions, I'm thinking, and when, of course, I've worked with so many people and people in recovery. This is really the last addiction that they, for the most part, that they have, because they've taken care of all those other ones.
Yeah. It's like the final frontier.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we usually talk a lot about too, like emotional sobriety.
Right.
Right. It is also kind of the one of the last frontiers too, but
Right.
it's because it's all underlying all of the addiction is that I don't want to feel and I don't know how to feel, right? And smoking is the thing that did that the least for me while I was in active addiction. But then when I wasn't, it started to fill that role again without me even realizing it, because I just experienced something so extreme, right? And escaping my feelings, that now it was like, oh, well, smoking surely can't provide that much relief, emotional relief for me. But it really did. So yeah, I think that's a good title. Yeah.
Good. Do you think, is there a certain person or a group of people that you would say, I really want them to watch this podcast?
My friends.
You're not this
'Cause I
podcast,
love
all of
them.
it, but yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
What do you think they'll think of it?
I think they'll think it's great because they love me. And I think that I've been able to be myself and share my experience and hopefully share it in a way that is understandable and relatable to others. And I think that I try to do that in all parts of my life. And so I think they'll see this and be like, yeah, that's Kait. That's who she is. Yeah. And that's what she does. And yeah, I mean, it would be really cool too if people, especially people in recovery, were able to see it and relate to me and get something out of it and think, maybe I can stop smoking, right? Yeah. Maybe this could work for me too.
Well, that's my last question, and the reason I wrote it as the last question because I knew you were going to give a perfect summary, and it was going to be an awesome conclusion. So thank you.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed this.
Yeah, thanks so much for asking me to be on your podcast.
If anything we discussed has resonated with you, especially if you're ready to finally quit vaping or smoking for good, I encourage you to become part of our new quitting community. Go to alwaysbequitting.com to register for that. I'm John, and remember, always be quitting until you've quit for the last time.